All right. Some folks recommend this video. I don't think we're going to make it, so we're going to try.
Is that bad, huh?
An hour and 30 minutes.
God damn, it is really bad.
My name's John. It's been 5 years since I directed an episode on this exact same topic, and it has only grown more relevant. So let's jump into our discussion between feminists and men's rights activists. Men already have all their rights. If you agree, step forward. Let's start with you.
I hate the name men's rights activists because it does imply that as if our rights are being taken away. The problem that men face is more existential. The patriarchy conditions men, or assigned male at birth people, to pretty much just keep your feelings shut down. By age 10, your feelings don't matter.
Is this guy from the men's rights side?
You heard right. He said assigned men. Yes. You heard? Yes.
Wait, this guy's supposed to represent
you heard.
men's rights activists?
It evolved. He's including people.
I don't think this
It's
evolved.
a man's... No.
I think that's a plant.
No. That's,
Just the language. I have seen a lot of men's rights. But hey, you know what? Maybe someone's going to make the argument that not all men's rights activists have to look the same.
Yeah.
And maybe this is his version. I'll just be honest. Anyone who I've ever heard use that label never talk like this or use that lingo. And using the term patriarchy is something that they fight against at all costs. So this guy, and he already started by saying, I don't even like the term men's rights activist.
Exactly.
I was like, then why are you fucking here?
Exactly.
Okay, let's just give it a shot though.
See, you just... This is a proof that we're not gonna make it because three seconds in,
Oh my God.
he's already got 3 strikes.
And I think I saw Pearl back there.
Yes, this guy.
Did you watch this?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't.
You're just taking this in so well.
No, we're doing the same. No, it's just that
You don't look shocked.
No, because the thing that happened is that I'm not. I took it upon myself to not say that I'm not surprised because you don't like when I say that. Right? Of course, he's not surprised. So I don't.
No solutions.
Okay, so this is a great opportunity to bring in our disagreeers. But I ask that we listen to what they have to say before we disagree with them.
So the perspective that I come from was about 3 years ago, I wanted to know why men didn't want to get married anymore.
Holy shit, has Pearl lost weight?
Pearl demonetized. Pearls don't eat.
Yeah. Well, she lost that YouTube money. She couldn't afford all them Chick-fil-A sandwiches. But good for her. She looks a lot better now. Good for her. She looks like she did her hair and everything. She got a decent outfit on.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Pearl, I'm so proud of you. All your haters got you dressing good and grooming yourself. You might actually find a... she might actually find a husband thanks to all her haters.
Yeah.
That's crazy. We told her, stop wearing those trash bags, bitch.
Thank you very much for dropping the polka dots.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
No.
You look like something. I mean, you're still over 20.
This nigga said you look like something. That's crazy.
No, I'm gonna say it again.
That's crazy.
No, congratulations. You look like something. You dropped the
She
polka
said, yo,
dot.
you ain't a pro, you a rock. Hey, that's crazy. Nah. I'm gonna give it to you. Pearl, you actually look good at this one. I hate your guts, but
yeah. So you look good. I mean, you're still over 27, so you ain't worth nothing. But according to you, good job on the effort.
I kept hearing men say, I don't want to get married. And it kind of took me down the rabbit hole of family court. I started interviewing men that had been what's called divorce raped. And I kept finding guy after guy after guy that lived a couple miles from his kids and could not see them. It goes back to men should have access to their children. It's 50% their DNA. They should get 50% custody off the bat. And right now, 90% of the time, women get custody. The question was, do men have all of their rights? How can I say that they have all of their rights when I'm finding guy after guy after guy that is devastated he can't talk to his children? I had one guy who the woman got custody and she ended up taking the kid to a different country. And now his kid doesn't speak his same language. He spent $300,000 trying to get that kid back.
I want to look at women's stories as to why they don't want to get married. And I could go interview 1,000 women. You're looking for these kinds of men.
What she's discussing are individual and yes, tragic cases, and we can acknowledge that. But what we're discussing is a systemic issue. On aggregate, men and women after divorce, women see a 27% decline in the reduction of their income. They're more likely to be in poverty, and they're less likely to get remarried.
If you go around the world, there are countries that have male-only conscription, countries that have higher pension ages for men. Countries like the U.S. and Canada have certain welfare programs that men are excluded from. Domestic violence laws, homeless laws. There are many cases where men do not have access to the same public welfare programs, tax-paid programs. And if you look at something like the draft in the U.S., people say, well, that's outdated. It doesn't happen anymore. But many countries in the world, included some that are considered like very first world progressive feminist countries, Austria, Finland, Switzerland, they have male-only conscription. And many countries have higher pension ages for men. So there are many examples of countries that have laws that directly discriminate against men. So do we have all the rights? I mean, no, we don't. In the U.S., I had to volunteer, well, not really volunteer, I wasn't given a choice, but I had to register for the draft. So that's a small example, but it's, one that still goes on today.
Going back to the family court thing, because we want to talk about traditional relationships, and that's how it should be. The mom should stay home with the kids, and the dad is the provider and all that. But then when it comes to the family court, we want to be like, oh, dads need 50% custody, but you don't even know your kid. You've been off providing all this time, and the only reason now you want 50% custody is because that's the only thing that still connects you to the woman, or whatever up reason you have. But it has nothing to do with the children at heart. It has to do with, I'm their father, I deserve 50% custody. But where were you the first 10, 15 years that we were raising the kids?
I'm not denying that they need their mothers or their fathers more.
I feel like this whole conversation is going to be the men's rights activists putting up this caricature of like this money-hungry, like conniving woman who just wants to spite the man.
And the feminists
are gonna make this thing of like deadbeat loser who wants nothing to do with a kid. And everything so far has been like, I'm gonna argue against the caricature of the worst example of what a men's rights activist is, and then the opposite is true for the feminists and the women.
Men and women complement each other. That is what I'm saying. Some men are more masculine, some women are more feminine. My girlfriend's more feminine, I'm more masculine. We go very well together because our values align.
What is feminine?
No, but hold on. What is feminine to me? She wants to take care of children. She wants to.
So that's feminine.
To me, it is. To me, it is. That is what I want in a woman. You can only speak from. I can name you the stats, but I'm talking about me. I'm talking as a person.
Name the stats.
So what about the stats where all the fathers who leave and don't pay child support? Isn't that far more common than these men who are
Or the men who do get the
fighting for
rights.
custody, which they only do 50% less than women do? When men want primary custody, they only file the appropriate paperwork 40% of the time. Women do it over 80% of the time, and then they complain that they're not getting. Courts don't give you something that you're not asking for. Period.
So what are you saying?
Men choose not to support their families. They waive responsibility.
Far more
Many times.
That's very
they look
sexist to say that. To assume that fathers don't care about their kids.
No, then why aren't they actively fighting for the kids?
They are. It wouldn't be an issue if it didn't happen. It's an issue for a reason. There are lawyers that specialize in this. They wouldn't have a business if it didn't happen.
I know at least for you and possibly for Pro, you guys want to reaffirm traditional masculine roles, which does not assume that men are the nurturing ones. And if that's going to be the case, then you're going to continue to run into the problem where men aren't going to get custody because women are going to be seen as the nurturing gender. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you don't want that to be the case, then it makes sense to stand with feminists and want to dismantle those sorts of norms and expectations around what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman.
I would say it should be 50-50 custody off the bat.
Women experience more sexism than men. If you agree, please step forward.
Now, I don't know about like more, but I'm coming at this from like the point of view of like what's more dangerous.
Exactly.
Like misandry, men's feelings get hurt, but when it comes to misogyny and like sexism, women get hurt, killed. So when I think of more, I'm not thinking like, oh, they face more sexism. I'm like, is the sexism like hurting you?
No, the same way. I was looking at it when I heard sexism, I just heard safety.
Yeah.
That was the way I was approaching it. The topic was basically men experience sexism. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I think the topic was just more sexism, like you said. Just simple things, just as like a man maybe just 10 feet behind you at night. There are certain thoughts that just run into your head.
A man a couple feet behind you at night, there's certain ideas that go in your head. Yeah, they go through my head too. I've never walked home late at night, seen one dude behind me in a hoodie walking behind me and not thought, yeah. This is not something, or even when I'm with my girl, I start to be more ready and tense, and she's just like, la 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 la. Because she thinks everything's fine. In my head, I'm like, am I gonna have to fight somebody because the person walking behind us? So this idea that we don't feel that fear, it just...
Can I say something?
I don't know. The way they describe men and their existence, I'm like, are you guys even men? Are you guys really men? I don't know. I don't know.
I'm going to tell you something, all right?
Because he?
It's not because I can fight that I want to.
Unless it's fresh and fit.
Unless it's fresh and fit. Then they don't want to. But it doesn't mean I want to.
When I hear sexism, again, like you said, I view it more as just danger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like for men, me facing sexism, like you said, my feelings might get hurt, but I'm not gonna fear for my life. You know what I mean? As opposed to women, I think they genuinely do fear for their lives more, and I think we should work towards making a safe society for everybody.
Right.
And I think that that's ultimately, what's important.
There's an irony here. Because they say women have to be afraid because men just you just get scared of men. That's sexism right there. You just being afraid of this person and implying some idea of them being some dangerous thing is a form of, and in a workplace, in job opportunities, take daycares. Men can't work there. Why? Dudes. That's a form of sexism. Even around kids, you just want to be in certain places. You a man? there's an implied idea of men being a threat despite whatever behavior you've ever engaged in your life. Doesn't matter whether you've been threatening, doesn't matter if you're a bad person. People inherently see you a type of way. There's a form of sexism that comes into that that's dangerous. Police officers are much more likely to do what? Harm an unarmed man versus an unarmed woman. Why? Because of the fact that there's an inherent idea of us being a threat in these situations. Okay? So if you want to talk about safety and sexism being involved, there's plenty of situations in which sexism towards men disadvantages them and puts their lives at risk on a regular basis. We talk about it with black men all the time and police officers. Whether you believe in that narrative or not, I've been told this for so long that black men, when it comes to police, are far more likely to be shot than any other group, okay? But now they're saying, oh, sexism towards men is not dangerous, or it's not as dangerous as it is towards women. Like, this is why I don't like these questions, because we get into this comparative state, and essentially what we're saying is, who should we focus on more when it comes to this issue? Who has it worse? And we start playing this game of like, well, women have it worse, or actually men have it worse. And then if men argue too much, and they actually just hate women's causes, and if women argue too much, they've never liked men's causes. It's just getting into this whole comparative suffering thing, whether it's black, Asian, white, Chinese, man, woman, all this other stuff, it is most often pointless and counterproductive. You spend more time discussing who suffers more and who suffers less, and less time acknowledging the other person's suffering.
Suffering Olympics.
Exactly. Right? So you're in competition. There's literally no opportunity here for you guys to work together because you're too busy being like, I have it worse. Right? And in order for you to be able to say that you have it worse, you have to discredit the other side. How are you ever going to build? So to me, this kind of conversation is one of the dumbest you can have because there's no building. There's no opportunities for you guys to bridge the gap. A better question would have been like, what are some ways that men suffer that you can acknowledge? What are some ways, and then asking the men's rights activists, what are some ways women suffer that you're ready to acknowledge? Find where the points of commonality are, instead of asking you, why are you having it worse in this group? To me, it just seems like a stupid way to have this conversation. But anyways, sorry.
Oh, you didn't do shit.
Okay, my bad. I was happy.
You're apologizing for apologizing?
Because due to the patriarchy, I'm just so used to taking up space. I didn't know if you felt like you were in your feminine side and just didn't feel you couldn't chime in.
Bitch.
Aside from safety, any other examples?
Yeah, I mean, I think when most people in power are men, and then they can abuse that power by, like, the common joke of, oh, she slept her way to the top. Like, that wouldn't be such a common joke if it weren't for women being sexualized and experiencing sexism. So common that it's just a regular joke that we all just accept and just go with, ah, ha, 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 she slept her way to the top. Like, it's funny. Like, it's clear that since men have so much power, and not only that, but men are bigger than us. So if they want something from us at any point, they could just take it. They can, and a lot of times they do. And you just have to sit there and take it.
Men are
So just give it to
I feel
me,
like a
man.
lot of this.
Whoa. Well, you getting canceled, preach. Yeah, y'all problematic ass.
I'm just kidding.
You're just kidding about grape? Is that what you were just kidding about?
Yes.
Okay. That's fine. It's okay. It's perfectly acceptable.
Men, when they talk about the loneliness epidemic, it's only about ever getting the girl, but it's never about friends.
About camaraderie with girls.
Exactly. No, yeah. What is it? Like, one of the things that I think that you really touched on, men shoot themselves in the foot often. There's just this idea that it's the same way you see poor people attacking other poor people because they're not getting paid enough. Men will attack other men because it threatens their masculinity or because they're insecure in it. When again, I'm just like a broken record player here. It's not a real concept. Masculinity is not a real concept. Femininity is not a real concept. These are just things that just hold us back. And like you said, it halts us from really truly like feeling heard, getting our feelings out there and like experiencing more empathy. We need to, again, destroy the system, destroy the patriarchy, and come up with a system that has empathy for everybody, because it just doesn't.
I think what's important to recognize is that misandry is not a systemic issue. It's not ingrained in us to the extent that there is like rhetorical misandry of like women saying, I hate all men, it's just like individualized, like, yeah, sure, unhelpful things, but it's not an otherization in the same way that misogyny is.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think that the world has been largely constructed through the male and man lens and in a way that has otherized women. And so, yeah, misogyny is more endemic to...
This is one of those notions about patriarchy that I find one of the dumbest. They see men in power and they see women suffering. And so they go, look, men are deciding to make women suffer, rather than not recognizing that this is just people in power making everyone below them suffer.
Yeah, men and
in what way do men benefit so much from having all these men in power? Whenever it comes to war and conflicts that these men decide on, they send us poor people or regular people to go fight and die in the wars, right? And I say us like I'm still there and like I'm obviously doing well for myself now. But most of my life, I've been one of those regular people, right? I was in the military at that point. It is the regular people at the behest of those rich people that are going out there. So how is this society built for men when men are the ones who are dying the most? Men are the ones who are going to war the most. Men are the ones who are just out there just getting shot up and shit. Like, if what you were saying was true and men have just made this world through the man's lens and to benefit men at all costs or whatever it is, then why is it that men overwhelmingly suffer some of the most negative consequences that are imaginable in this society? I think when people just say patriarchy, they just lump any man in there, not recognizing that really it's just people in power oppressing everybody below them, and they don't really care for your wants and needs. That's true for women, that's true for men. But instead of trying to divide each other, be like, men are actually all pushing. Most regular dudes have no business and no time to be out here trying to oppress you. They can barely make their ends meet. They're not even as educated as you ladies. They contemplating suicide a lot more. They over there in the front lines of Ukraine while all their women have left the fucking frontier. Like, what are we talking about? Look at any conflict. The overwhelming majority of people who are victims are men. What happens when they report the situation? Well, listen, there's 3,000 killed, including 500 women and children. Okay, so the men are just not even going to be a stat worth mentioning. We're the footnote. We need to know how many fucking Dalmatians died before we find out how many men specifically died. Just understand, whenever people use the whole patriarchy thing, it's just so stupid to me. Because again, this is another divisive way of making every man culpable for the fact that rich and very elite people are the ones who dictate most of it. Not in benefit of men, but in benefit of themselves.
Sacrificing men.
I have never looked at the government and be like, yo, they've been doing me a solid. Oh my God, these niggas looking out for me.
They're not looking out for men. They're not looking for women either. I'm not trying to separate.
Where are my benefits?
They're just not looking for nobody.
They need to stop pulling us over.
And then 12 through 13 and onwards, you just don't really feel like you matter much as a person. And I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that. Our rights aren't really under attack. Meanwhile, half of Congress hasn't codified Roe v. Wade. They're trying to control women's bodies, and it's just ridiculous. Like, our rights aren't under attack, but a lot of women's rights are, and I think it's important that we fight for that.
Right.
Yeah, no. No. What? He got up there and said men don't have any rights problem, women do, and he just started talking. Okay.
I also think that there's a difference between like rights and inequalities.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't think that my rights being taken away. I think that's just an effect of patriarchy.
I agree.
We're not like losing our bodily autonomy. We're not, fearing for our lives walking down a dark hallway, So I don't think they're comparable.
I agree.
Yeah.
Losing our bodily autonomy. We're not afraid when we're walking down an alley.
Your body autonomy would be like, let's say, the legislation against women, which entitled to birthright and stuff like that, and I think that's what he means, right?
Bodily autonomy means choice over. You know what? I disagree, and I'll give you an example. That's very common in the West. You ready?
Yeah.
Circumcision.
I don't think it's a good one because that's religion.
That's not even religion. That's a standard in the West. Non-religious people do that here.
Yeah, I know. Like I got circumcised, but really just because of that was just I had issues with my dick.
How is it not bodily autonomy? These are children that we're mutilating. It is a mutilation.
Depending on what it is for.
Okay, and beyond the vast majority of them are just mutilations. To just call it what it is. There's no reason to have these things happen other than they claim it's sanitation.
Sure, because
it's not sanitation. If you're uncircumcised, just wash your dick. Wash your dick. It's not sanitation.
It's not sanitation.
You know what I mean? Do I need to cut off my arm so I have less to clean? You fucking loser. Wash your dick.
It's not sanitation.
It's not sanitation.
No.
But that is bodily autonomy. It's sanctioned by the state. It is allowed, which it should never be. Okay? Because we're essentially cutting people's... For what reason?
It's just a foreskin, though.
You're saying it's just a foreskin. It's not just a foreskin. You're removing a bunch of nerve endings. And secondly, it is your body that they are infringing upon. Me saying it's just your foreskin is like me cutting off your pinky finger and saying it's just your pinky finger. That's not a thing that should happen. Mm-hmm. When we speak about... Now, I'm not saying men's bodily autonomy issues are the same level as women, but there are definitely certain levels of that. And it's also societally expected. People shame you if you are uncircumcised or whatever it is.
Is there something else?
No, that's probably the big one. But are they mutilating women's genitals in the West?
Not in the West.
Okay. In the East, they do that shit.
No, but the autonomy, they're really just talking about the laws, the legislation about... If we talk about... If I got to take circumcision and I got to take... the birthrights and everything and stuff. If I have to take the circumcisions versus the birthright, the birthright is more important.
But that's not the point. He said we don't have any bodily autonomy issues. I just disagree with that notion. That's not the same thing. Saying there's no issues is not saying that we have more issues than women.
Cool.
Okay? It's not the same thing. And it's okay to just be like, yo, men have this issue here without saying, oh my God, woe is me, whatever. It is an issue. I think it's not right that we just enforce this on people as some standard when honestly, it just ruins the nerve endings down there, which I don't know why anyone would say that's good. But if you think about it, it is a fucked up thing to just take some pieces of kids off and start cutting that shit up.
Just because.
Just because. That is a standard. Now, as far as walking down a back alley, I don't know what man you know. I don't be walking down back alleys thinking I'm incredibly safe. And also keep in mind, the vast majority of victims of violent crime are other men. Are they at the hands of other men? Sure. But this idea that men are just feeling safe all day long or whatever, that's not the case. Now, is it true that women have more things that they have to worry about or different things that they have to worry about in terms of safety? Sure. But always remember, vast majority of people who suffer from violent crimes are men. Okay? Yes, perpetrated by other men, but it doesn't change the fact that if you an innocent dude and you're not doing anything, yeah, the worry that you're going to get snuffed out or beaten up, that's a thing. Not everywhere, but it is a thing. What do you want to say on?
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. But I don't know what this has to do with rights.
No, they ask one question,
and then they go other
and, yeah, and it goes, oh!
Yeah.
And then like, hey, bring it back one time. Yeah. Bring it back one time.
And we also need to remember men's right activism, while they do have some genuine plights, it started out as a combatant to feminism. So I feel like they laid the groundwork off a very bad foundation.
I honestly, I 100% agree. I think it's been hijacked by a lot of bad faith actors.
Yeah.
Who,
Plant!
Well, let him go. Let him speak. We haven't played 2 minutes. Let it play.
blame women for problems that you should blame the patriarchy.
Exactly.
And it's very frustrating because I'm on this side because I think that there is genuine problems that I think need to be addressed. I'm sure we can all agree on that.
What are some of those problems?
High rates. Men are 4 times as likely to, I don't know what the TikTok version of the phrase is, but 4 times more likely. I think that's something that should be talked about more. I think that there's also, a lot of men are very hesitant to get rid of the notions of patriarchy, whereas I've noticed a lot of women or assigned female at birth people.
I just wanted to see your face when he said that, because he's
jarring.
Are very willing to just throw away any notions of femininity. I think a lot of men have a lot of emotional baggage from the patriarchy that they redirect at women, and it's not fair to them, and it's also hurting us. And the problem is for some men, all they have is their notion of masculinity to the point that they cannot let it go, and they can't see anything else other than that. When the actuality is, again, gender isn't real. We're just plants with complicated emotions. When I look at people, I just see human-shaped flowers.
Yeah, go be a flowers rights activist, okay? Shut the fuck
You're
up.
You're not a man's right activist now.
Bro.
You don't believe in gender, but all you... No.
Don't believe in gender, men's rights activists. Okay.
No.
Okay, boss.
That makes no sense. But
okay, boss.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would say that a lot of these men's rights activists, they're struggling. Like you said, they have high suicide or high self-deletion, whatever we're supposed to say, rates. And the way they're coping with it, and the way that they're coping with it is by saying, okay, we're having this issue, so we need to put women back.
Exactly.
And be this, we need to take away their rights. We need this society to be the way it was, where like all the rights that were afforded to people, it was men. Men were the first people to get rights, and then other people have to, especially white men, and then everyone else has to catch up to them. And because they're struggling, they go, oh, let's turn the clock back. Number one, that's impossible. You're not going to turn the clock back. And number two, I don't think that's actually going to help the issue.
It's not going to help the issue. It'll hinder it.
I do agree with it. They can't turn the clock back. I think some people, they have like this disillusioned thing where they're going to be able to repeal women's rights to vote or do all this other stuff, and like it's not happening. And the more you guys yap about this, the more I realize that your movement is not to be taken seriously. There is no going backwards. Okay, you're not going to put the whole abortion thing back in the bag. Even if you do manage to, it won't last long because more and more people are changing their minds, even amongst right-wing people. So these are losing battles that sometimes I see people take on. I'm like, if you really want to advocate for men, this is one of the dumbest ways, because from a strategic standpoint, you're fighting a battle you will never win. And every generation that comes afterward are all the same going to become less and less with your ideas. So it's just about picking the battles that you can win and focusing in on that. But, I can understand people taking ideological stance and saying, I really want to fight for this. Just understand you will never win. That's just a fact. And so that's why I do agree with her.
Suicide thing, I do think it's important to have a little bit of nuance that women actually attempt suicide far more often. The reason why men are more successful is because they're more likely to own a firearm and use it.
Yes.
But in terms of like men fighting for rights, I think that like movements that attempt to fight for rights for particular groups, that sort of description should be exclusive to genuine social justice movements. There may be disparities in ways in which the patriarchy does disadvantage men, but I think that you can't co-opt the language of it being a social justice or rights-based movement.
No, that's the problem is that like I have this thing I say, I feel like saying that like men have feelings is kind of like saying all lives matter, because men only ever bring up their problems directly after women bring up theirs. So it just sounds dismissive.
God. Why do they have a plant, and why is he taking up so much airtime to just sabotage these motherfuckers? It is cringe listening to this guy. The only time men bring up their problem is in relation to women bringing up their own.
No. I see this as the last place I'm gonna bring up my problem, because that's like when a woman talks about her problem, that's where it doesn't matter. You don't want to make it about you. So you're not, if a girl brings up a problem, I'm gonna be, yeah, but me, that never happens.
Yeah.
That's not how it happens.
Yeah.
And when it happens, that's the last time you're seeing that person, because that person's gonna be like, I was talking about my feelings and I was opening up, and that person made it like about him. No. It mostly happens when women ask you and they're really, 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 really imperative on you opening up, and then you open up, and then eventually after that, the problem that you brought up turns into how you made them feel. So you're gonna say something, and they're gonna ask to open up. You open up. I didn't like this and that, and they're gonna be like, "Well, I didn't like how I feel right now," and now you have to deal how she feels now. That's what. If you would have said that, I would have been like, "That happens." More than my girl's gonna say something about her feelings and I'm gonna open up. That never happens. Anyways.
That's fair. But I would say even the example that you gave was not probably my reality at all either.
No, but it's most likely to happen than whatever the fuck he said.
Here's the real reality. Okay, men, if they do open up, they're generally going to open up with their guy friends for the vast majority of the time. And if they do open up to their girls, generally speaking, it doesn't go horrible. But there are instances where you bring it up and then it gets used against you and stuff like that.
That's more likely to happen than whatever you said. It doesn't always happen.
Sure.
But goddamn.
Sure. I get what you said. My bad.
It's like...
And that's the problem, is that for a lot of men, I think we feel so uncared for by society. We feel so like we don't really matter unless we prove our worth, that anytime any social movement gets any sort of traction, we just immediately just bum rush that.
And it really makes me wonder that there are rational men's rights activists, seeing as yourself, but people advocating.
I'm sorry. No, they didn't play. My bad. That's just because he said exactly what he believes in. Then you're rational. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Are these people advocating, the bad actors, for women's rights to be peeled back for them to feel comfortable?
I think so, because I think the problem is that a lot of men, again, people who are so rooted in their gender bother me, because it only hurts you. It only hurts other people around you. It's kind of like the idea of because the problem is that men are allowed to express anger, but they're not allowed to express sadness. Right. Women are allowed to express sadness, but you cannot express anger.
Or else they get called like a bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never heard one men's rights activist talk about the loneliness epidemic of men not having friends. It's always like women's problem.
No, I agree.
They don't want to date you. They don't want to hook up.
They never offer any solutions.
I mean, I don't know if I would call myself a men's rights activist, but we definitely spend a lot of time talking about men's issues with loneliness and friendships and how to maintain those. That's like a video we do pretty consistently. If I was to talk, do I see a lot of men talk about maintaining friendships? No, I don't think so. I don't think they talk about the value. They talk about the value of friendship. I don't think they talk about how to maintain it, how to work for it, how to improve it. So I guess maybe I would agree with her. Yeah.
But even the people that I dislike in the men's rights activist world spoke about that.
Spoke about what?
About what she's saying. She said like men don't talk about the feeling of being lonely. And even the ones I dislike, at some point they cover that. They cover the loneliness to bring a point about women. Like maybe it's to reinforce the point that they were trying to make against women, but they do talk about the loneliness. They do talk about that sometimes.
About friendship?
About friendship. They do talk about it. They don't talk about maintaining it, but they do talk about it. When she says that, oh, I never hear those, it's because you don't listen to them. You don't listen to them because...
Yeah. Okay.
And it's okay that you don't listen to them. I understand.
Yeah, or maybe she's just talking about the fact that they don't talk about it at length, which, aside from just saying men don't have friends...
That's not what she said, though.
Yeah, but we're trying to be charitable in these kind of conversations. When people are speaking and they're saying, like, oh, men don't talk about friendships and stuff like that, aside from saying men have no friends, I don't think they talk about it beyond that. And I think that's fairly true.
Fair.
Because it's not really saying much. Oh, men have no friends. Okay, well, sure. But why don't they have no friends? Do they talk about that? What's causing them to get there? What's causing them to be so socially isolated that they're not making friends? Why aren't other friends trying to seek them out? Why aren't other men trying to seek them out? Those are conversations I don't see people having.
But at the same token, they always talk about boys being boys. So.
Sure. But all this to say, I think I would agree with her overarching point that they spend way more time about talking about women, why women do this, why women sleep here, why women don't sleep with these people, rather than talking about
I agree.
Why aren't men maintaining friendships.
I agree.
I don't think I've ever heard that conversation.
That I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
You're just being charitable.
more than that, I think, what is it that actual men's rights actually focus on when it comes to friendship? They spend 1 second. So that means they're not talking about it.
I mean,
aside from saying men have no friends, they're not talking about it. That's not talking about something. That's not having a conversation about a topic. If you want to say men have no friends, okay, sure. Why is it? What is that's happening older on? Because if we were to have a conversation, we would say things like, well, listen, men as they get older, because they're not willing to make some of the efforts that women make to maintain their friendships, then you're starting to extrapolate. Men as they get older and they get married and they have a partner, they spend most of their time with their partner, and their partner becomes most of their sense of friendship. That's having a long conversation. And then talking about the reasons why. But just saying men have no friends, that's not really talking about it, is it?
Sure.
I think the only time and this is not for men's rights activists, the only time I hear about men talking about having no friends is when those guys do those videos and they're like, I'm 41 and I have no friends. Is that a men's rights activist? No. That's just a person who's lonely, disgusting.
I was not counting.
These are the only people I ever see talking about it from men online.
Each other's worst enemy. I feel like a lot of the sexism that men face that really impacts them is from other men. Men make fun of each other for like getting assaulted.
Facts.
Men make fun of each other for like not getting the girl. Men like these are things that if men really wanted, if these men's rights activists really wanted to change this notion, they would be treating their fellow man better.
No, I mean,
but they're ridiculing them for not being masculine enough.
100%. Sorry. I was going to say I agree with everything you're saying. Like you said earlier, men shoot themselves in the foot, and I believe someone said earlier that
change seed, bruh. Just go sit right over there.
Let the plant. Yo, it's so funny that he's a plant. Wasn't he earlier talking about flowers and shit?
Yeah.
That is, this guy subliminally telling you that he's on the wrong side. Yo, that is crazy.
I agree with everything you say. Then switch.
Okay, flower man.
Gender relations rather than misandry being sort of like individual outbursts of reacting to that system.
No, exactly. 100% agree.
Okay, and we're going to bring in our disagreeers, but I do want to say some of the things that you were saying you hear from men's rights activists, I agree, I've heard that online. I haven't heard that from these people in this discussion yet. I think it's just worth clarifying. Let's bring in our disagreeers.
You start?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I would disagree that you say misandry is not systemic. Cultural misandry is evident in a lot of the laws that neglect men. Misandry is why homeless men don't have as many shelters. It's why we don't take male victims of domestic violence seriously. It's why men's health care is underfunded. And there's a psychological phenomenon called the women are wonderful effect, where society and people have less empathy for men in a general sense. Now, there may be some nuance there. There could be some negative consequences for women. But overall, we see social welfare programs and laws mostly disfavor men. And even if it's a male politician who supports that law, he's still catering to his voters. And the fact that a male politician makes a decision doesn't resurrect the 19-year-old draftee who was killed in battle. So when you say that misandry isn't a thing, I completely disagree. It's almost become fashionable. Misandry is almost a fashionable trait among the left. And I'm not a right-winger, but I almost feel pushed this way because when I try and talk about men's issues, I get some very sharp reactions from the left.
So I just want to respond to that just because it was specifically directed at me. In terms of misandry not being systemic, I agree that those issues exist, but a lot of what you're referring to is just the relationship between men having disadvantages due to like socioeconomic status and comparing that to benevolent misogyny, which does actually otherize women and is a form of dehumanization that they should be specially cared for and specially undertaken. There was a study out of the University of Chicago in 2005 that found that when you actually diversify the amount of judges in a court, sex-based discrimination lessens. So the reason why misandry isn't systemic is because we don't live in whatever the opposite of we don't live in a matriarchy, right? So men do things that of course disadvantage other men, but it's not because they're men. They're not being discriminated because it's due to them being like poor or whatever other sort of specific situation that they're in.
Okay, let me just take that in.
But yes.
So a select few of men get to benefit from the system and they disadvantage everyone who's poor. But no, that's not even true because at the end of the day, when the guy brought up the example of the draft, when he brought up the fact that social welfare programs aren't accessible to a lot of men, those are from systemic things that are specifically towards men and that advantage women. So I disagree with his statement, but I understood where he was going.
Yeah, I understand, but it's systemic. You naming all that and saying that it's that it doesn't exist.
He's saying it's systemic, but he's saying it's not based off genders. He's saying it's based off socioeconomic backgrounds because you're poor or you're not incredibly rich. But to me, that distinction is almost pointless because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. The vast majority of us are not part of the 1%. So whether it's, vast majority of men are going to be impacted by the fact that they're not advantaged, right? Because we're not part of that 1%. So in reality, what you said is a distinction, sure, but is it even worthwhile? I don't even think so. Because this still impacts 99% of men. Oh, yeah, it's not sex-based. It's just 99% of you guys, of males, are going to get fucked over by this legislation. Okay. Thanks for that reassurance, bud. Like,
It don't feel good when he said that.
okay.
Fuck 99% of you guys.
Yeah, we're gonna murder 99% of you guys, of you men. But it's not because you're men. It's because
you're poor.
Yeah, which men are more likely to be than women.
Oh,
don't you feel better?
Thanks.
This line of argumentation is just it never ceases to amaze me how good feminists can be at alienating people. Yeah. It's actually impressive. They will miss the forest for the trees. Why? Because they saw a tree branch on the floor.
And I just want to add that, like, the reason there are women-only spaces or women-only shelters is because men are the perpetrators of most of the crime. Now, they are also the victims of a lot of the crime, which is why, that's why I didn't agree with the prompt, because I think it is that sexism, like, they did touch on it, and he did touch on it, that, like, oh, men are supposed to never back down from a fight. I even hear things like, oh, if men should have to know how to fight, men should have to be aggressive, and, you know, so these women-only spaces is because women, most of the crime that's done on women is men, it's from men. So it's a safer place for women when there are no men around, especially when women that are homeless or at the bottom ranks of society.
Well, I don't disagree that we need a women's only space. I'm just saying there is a lack of men's space available. So there are homeless men and abused men who don't have spaces available. We are not against women's spaces. We're just saying there is a greater need for men's spaces than currently exists.
You guys are referring to violence like it belongs to men.
Most of, especially serious violence, like most of the women that are getting killed through domestic violence, yes, they are.
Women are 1 out of 3 women in the U.S. were victim of domestic violence.
Do you have an experience to pull from that you want to share?
I've been hit by women before.
I've been stabbed.
Like, I've been hit multiple times by women, yet I'm a 225-pound guy of muscle and I have 20 years of experience. You know what I did? Nothing. I just took it.
This guy sounds very French Canadian. This guy. Am I crazy?
I see what you're saying, but you sound more Middle Eastern than.
But if I were to go to the police, you know who they would remove from the house? Me.
This guy gotta be French Canadian. Conservative Canadian exposing wokeism. Bro, what do you mean? You don't think I can't hear my French Canadians? That was definitely not no era. That shit was 1,000% French Canadian.
Rekindle. But all I'm saying is violence, no matter. I'm not saying that men are not violent. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I've seen women as violent. It's just that it is not regarded in the same way, just as you mentioned. No, but men are not taken seriously either. And the point I wanted to bring is to what you said, because you mentioned that earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were saying that men are not encouraged to speak about their feelings.
I would say largely that's true, yeah.
Yet, you're bringing them down in your conversation. You're saying that being sexist towards a man is not as big of a deal as being towards a woman. So on one point, you're saying that men should be able to show their emotions, to live their emotions, however term you want to use. But in the next sentence, you're saying that the emotion of a man don't matter as much.
No, their emotions certainly matter. And I think that you can express like disagreement or even sadness if somebody's being quote unquote misandry. I'm just saying it's not systemic. And that's a matter of fact. I'm saying in the descriptive reality of what misandry is versus what misogyny is, it's not actually systemic.
Just
right? So I'm having a factual disagreement with what men quote unquote are expressing their feelings, which I don't think the majority of men or even a plurality of men are expressing those sorts of feelings that misandry is like some big burden on them.
Why are more laws against men though? I mean, there's more laws in the US that are disfavored to men than women. Why is that?
Like which laws? Like the inconsequential draft?
No.
Like
access to certain healthcare programs. Prostate cancer, the biggest killer of non-smoking men, is not covered on the ACA.
Okay, women in like half the country don't even have a right to like bodily autonomy, don't have access to effective contraception.
See exactly what I told you was going to happen? It's just compared to suffering. Men are bringing up valid issues, women are bringing up the valid issues, the feminists are. What are they doing? Mine's worse, yours worse. No, mine's worse, mine's worse, mine's worse. They're not even, so I don't think we need to watch anymore. I'm going to stop it here. And I know, I didn't think everyone was bad. Actually, surprisingly, Pearl was one of the best people on this, and I'm only 22 minutes in, which, that's impressive. Jasmine was okay too. And I actually like the guy with the blue shirt.
Yeah, but Plant was just...
Yeah, nobody want to hear Plant.
Nobody want to hear Plant.
But yeah, that's my thoughts on this. If you guys really want us to watch more of it, we will. Just my take from it is this is a very unproductive episode. It's really badly produced, in my opinion. I know they tried.
Well, the badly produced, depending on what the point is. It's just to let them blabber, then that's what it is. If you actually want people to interact with what they're saying and go in depth, then yes, it is very badly.
Nothing about this was good in terms of the casting. I think they definitely made a mistake with that Plant. It was pretty horrendous that he's there. I think another thing they made a mistake with this video was the prompts. They immediately put us... There is no chance for a middle ground because you immediately pitted them against each other.
Yeah.
You didn't even give prompts that give an opportunity for them to come together. Instead, they were just at each other's neck. And I know that's what he was trying to do, but this was the opposite of middle ground. This was stay in your ground and lob rocks at the other side. That's what this was. So That's my overall thoughts. What do you think?
I think that they don't want the producer to interfere like that, or they cut it off when he does. But I really wish that whenever they're veering off the question, they're not answering the question, to be reminded what the question is, to stay focused. I have a little bit of someone said, hey, that's the question. You talk about some other shit. We're gonna talk about that later on.
Yep. But yeah. I didn't know what to expect going into this video. If you guys really want us to watch the rest of it, we will. If this, let's say, gets to 50,000 likes, which is a huge benchmark, then I will. Otherwise, I will never consider it, because I think this is pretty much as good as it gets, and I don't think you guys want to watch Pearl ruin her image. She looks good, though. Shout out to you,
She
Pearl.
look good. Pearl, they're good.
Congratulations, Pearl.
You dropped the polka dot. Let's go, girl.
Past your prime. But you're doing better.
You still ain't worth
Ain't
shit.
it crazy? Didn't Pearl say that women are used goods after 27?
Yeah.
But she looks better at 27 than she has her whole life?
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I think she's
Are
gonna.
you about to defy the odds?
I think she's gonna continue to look better. But too bad, she's past 27.
And if she meets a man, she should look him in the eyes and say, "Don't date me, because you deserve a woman in her prime, and I don't want to ruin that for you."
Yeah.
Because you don't want to ruin a good man's prospects.
She wouldn't do that.
I don't think you want to do that.
Because she's smart. She's loyal.